Hi, and welcome to Tutorial 6, Using the Autobalancer. This tutorial will show you how to use the Autobalancer, as well as the Vitamin Mineral Balancer. As you view this tutorial, you may want to pause the video so that you can follow along on your computer, and you can always watch this tutorial again until you are comfortable with the topics that are covered. For more information on anything you see here, please visit our website, www.NittanyCow.com. Using the NittanyCow Autobalancer is a three-step process. First, we will see how to prepare a ration for autobalancing by designating the appropriate balancer feeds and entering feed prices. Then, we will run the autobalancer. Finally, we will see how to use the vitamin mineral balancer function. The first step in using the autobalancer is to designate feeds in the balancer feeds list. Balancer feeds are feeds that are available to add to the ration in the event that the autobalancer can't properly balance the rations with the feeds currently in the ration. To assign balancer feeds, go to the Setup option in the main menu and select Balancer Feeds. In the Balancer Feeds list, you will see a list of nutrients for which you may wish to balance. Each nutrient is labeled, followed by the abbreviation SRC for source. You will need to select a readily available source for each of these nutrients. Many of the nutrients have already been assigned default sources, but you may change them to more suitable sources. For methionine and lysine, there is no source suggested, so you will need to assign feeds for these nutrients. To do this, click the Select button for the nutrient you wish to assign a feed. A Select Feeds window will now appear, which will include all available feeds in alphabetical order, including any feeds in the user, mill, or commercial feeds lists. Scroll down the list, highlight the desired feed with a single click, and click OK. Do this for all nutrients in the list, and then click the Save button. Make sure any feeds you select will be readily available to the end user. Unless you wish to change feed sources for these nutrients when balancing for other rations, you only need to go through this process once. It is not necessary to do this each time you want to use the autobalancer for a ration. Then exit the Balancer Feeds list. Next, if you have not already done so, open or create the ration you wish to balance. You do not have to enter dry matter or as-fed amounts for the feeds in the ration to use the autobalancer, but if this has already been done, you can leave those values in place. Before accessing the autobalancer feature, navigate to the cost worksheet of the ration and make sure appropriate prices are assigned to all feeds. Although the autobalancer does not use a least cost formula per se, it does select the least expensive feed to satisfy the nutrient requirement. If you attempt to run the autobalancer without assigning prices to all feeds in the ration, the autobalancer will not run, so be sure to undertake this step before proceeding. Now we are ready to use the autobalancer. Within the ration, go to the Options menu and select Autobalancer. In the Autobalancer window, all the feeds in the ration are listed at the top, and a check is placed next to each of these feeds. If you want the autobalancer to exclude any of the existing feeds in the ration from the final formulation, remove the check next to those feeds with a single click. Next, review the minimum and maximum amounts of each feed. If you assign a minimum value to any feed, the autobalancer will formulate the ration to include at least that amount of the feed in the solution. Conversely, if you assign a maximum value to a feed, the solution will use no more than the maximum amount designated. NittanyCow assigns default maximums, as these are required for proper autobalancer functions, but users can adjust these values as they see fit. At the bottom of the window, you will establish the constraints. The constraints are the nutrient requirements that will be balanced for, with their associated maximum and minimum guidelines. By default, NittanyCow selects all available constraints: dry matter, NDF, NDF from forage, net energy of lactation, crude protein, calcium, and phosphorus. All other nutrient requirements will be balanced by the vitamin mineral balancer, which we will see later in this tutorial. If you wish to remove a constraint, remove the check next to the requirement with a single click. Next, establish the maximum and minimum ranges for each requirement. NittanyCow displays the target requirement and concentration for each nutrient here, and the minimum and maximum for weight and concentration are assigned default values. If you wish to change the min or max ranges for a particular nutrient, simply highlight the appropriate cell and enter the desired figure. In this example, we will narrow the dry matter range, and we will accept all other suggested ranges. At the very bottom, you will see the number of iterations. In other words, the number of times NittanyCow will run through the calculations. The NittanyCow Autobalancer uses a least squares means approach, which means that multiple solutions will be generated from the calculations. Increasing the number of iterations will produce more refined solutions. However, it will also take longer for the Autobalancer to execute the calculations. It is recommended that users do not assign more than 10 iterations in this field. Once you have reviewed the feeds, constraints, and ranges, click the Solve button. The Autobalancer will now execute the calculations. This process generally takes from 30 seconds to 2 minutes, depending on the number of feeds available, the constraints selected, and the iterations assigned. If you see a message that the Autobalancer is not responding, please be patient and allow the issue to resolve itself. If this message does not disappear after a minute or so, then there may not be enough memory available on your computer to run the Autobalancer function, and you will have to click Cancel to exit. However, in the vast majority of cases, simply allow the Autobalancer to proceed and you will get a response shortly. The Autobalancer will deliver one of two responses. If it was able to formulate solutions that satisfy all selected requirements using the feeds available, NittanyCow will display the first of 5 possible solutions. On the right, you will see the suggested dry matter and as-fed amounts for each feed. At the bottom, you will see the calculated ration cost using these feeding levels. To view the other possible solutions, click the Next button at the bottom of the window. If you do not find an acceptable solution, you can click Retry to generate more solutions, or you can click Cancel to return to the ration. Remember, there is no computer substitute for experience, so the solution may not be perfect, but you can easily fine-tune the ration once you've selected a solution. To use one of the suggested solutions, click Accept at the bottom of the window. Before returning to the ration, NittanyCow will ask you if you would also like to run the Vitamin Mineral Balancer. Despite its label, the Vitamin Mineral Balancer will balance for amino acids and fats in addition to vitamins and minerals. Often, it will add feeds from the balancer feeds list if there is not a readily available source for these nutrients in the ration. Typically, the execution of the Vitamin Mineral Balancer is faster, and you do not need to establish constraints and ranges to use it. To return to the ration without using the Vitamin Mineral Balancer, click No. To run the Vitamin Mineral Balancer, click Yes. In this case, we will see how to access the Vitamin Mineral Balancer without using the Autobalancer a little later in this tutorial, so I will click No. NittanyCow will now return you to the ration, and the feeding levels of each feed have been changed to agree with the accepted solution. You can now review the worksheets to identify any deficiencies and make the appropriate adjustments. Let's return to the Autobalancer for a moment. If NittanyCow could not provide an adequate solution which meets all constraints with the available feeds, it will provide the totals for the best calculated solution, alongside the nutrient requirement. On the right, you have 4 options. To automatically add feeds from the balancer list, select this option, then click Continue. If the Autobalancer still could not meet requirements, then you may need to return to the ration and add feeds to the ration to allow the Autobalancer to find an appropriate solution. In this example, I forgot to add a forage, so no number of calculations will produce a solution, because it can never meet the NDF from forage constraint. If you would like to see the solutions that NittanyCow did calculate, click the View the Available Results button and select Continue. Review the suggested solutions, and either accept a solution or cancel out of the Autobalancer. Alternatively, you can return to the constraints and either remove certain constraints or widen the min and max ranges for certain constraints. Then rerun the Autobalancer to see if it can deliver acceptable results. Last, let's run the Vitamin Mineral Balancer. You can use the Vitamin Mineral Balancer in conjunction with the Autobalancer as we saw earlier, or you can run it independently. Be sure you have assigned the appropriate feeds in the balancer feeds list before using this function. To run the Vitamin Mineral Balancer, select Vitamin Mineral Balancer from the Options menu. NittanyCow will now add or adjust feeds to meet predicted requirements for vitamins, minerals, amino acids, and fat. If you fail to select a source for certain nutrients in the balancer feeds list, you will be notified by NittanyCow, and this nutrient will be ignored by the Vitamin Mineral Balancer. Often, you will see that feeds have been added from the balancer feeds list. If these feeds did not have a price assigned to them previously, you will need to assign them a price in the cost worksheet to accurately assess the cost of this ration. As before, make any necessary adjustments by reviewing the ration worksheets. This concludes Tutorial 6. For more information, please consult the NittanyCow help file and other NittanyCow tutorials, or contact NittanyCow customer support to ask more questions.